And we are launched. Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Vip Vipperman with Eagle Venture Fund. We're here today to talk about safe internet for children, turning protection into portfolio value. As you may or may not know, digital safety has become a key priority for families, investors, and regulators. Protecting children online is not only a social imperative, it's a growing area of risk management and values-based investing. So today, we're going to talk about how family offices, wealth advisors, and high net worth investors can align their portfolios with both protection and performance. And as Wes shared just a moment as we were getting prepared, there's some real live active conversations going on this in the news today. So excited to get this conversation going. Welcome Wes Lyons with Eagle Venture Fund General Partner to share with us this morning. Wes?
Thank you all. Thank you, Vip. Thanks for joining here this morning. And this is a classic Zoom, so feel free to come off of mute and ask questions as we're going along. I have a few minutes to share here, but love this turning into a conversation. As you referred to, Vip, it is helpful to just talk about how relevant the safe digital world for children is to the moment. This morning's news shows Sam Altman has announced as of yesterday that he is turning on erotica on OpenAI. They are theoretically only turning it on for adults, but they're running the same playbook that social media did, that parental controls are going to work, and they're totally sure that they're not going to hurt kids. I don't believe them, and I doubt you do as well. It's tempting to say some like radical things around this, but there is a lot happening right now around whether the internet is going to be safe for children, and it is a key part of the Eagle Freedom Fund thesis. So we'll share here the overall thesis for the Eagle Freedom Fund, and then we'll deep dive into 1/3 of our thesis is around a safe digital world for kids. But before we go into those specifics, it's really helpful for people to just kind of look at the overall question of how on earth do you make money fighting human trafficking? Like when people hear that there's a fund dedicated to technologies fighting human trafficking, almost inevitably you might ask some question along the lines of how on earth do you might make money fighting human trafficking? And what we find is it's really helpful to draw in your understanding of other counter crime industries. So think of the counter fraud industry, or the counter identity theft industry, or the cybersecurity industry. And these are all tens to hundreds of billions of dollars industries that are dedicated to fighting crimes. And so it becomes this question of almost like, well, what's so different about this crime? It's turning over 346 billion per year in buying and selling people. Is it too small to justify its own industry? We resoundingly say, no, it does. And there is actually an emerging industry we're kind of showing. We just released a market analysis that maybe we could drop in the chat. That today, this industry that's emerging is about 500 million per year of, you can see all this different subsets of the counter trafficking industry is spent fighting this crime, but it's growing fast. This is an emerging industry that's growing at about 44% per year. Is our initial estimate. We think it'll go from 5 million to 5 billion, or 500 million to 5 billion in the next 5 years. And part of the reason we think that is there's actually a ton of echoes between what's happening in the counter trafficking industry and the way the cybersecurity market grew from 2004 to 2024. In 2004 to 2024, the cybersecurity market grew 100 times, from 3 billion to 300 billion. And if you interview the folks who went on this ride, they'll outline 3 things that really drove that growth at just a blistering hyper growth pace. It was the regulators coming in and saying, all the regulated industries, think healthcare and finance and different industries that are regulated, they came in and said, you've got to protect from a cybersecurity perspective. And then the litigators came in and said, hey, if you didn't protect your client data, you're on the hook. You didn't implement the industry standard best practices, you're going to pay because you just lost a bunch of client data. And then the insurers, if you have ever run a small business and gone for a cybersecurity a rider on your insurance, it comes with a checklist saying, have you done PIN testing? Do you have McAfee? Do you have all these things in place to implement the industry standard best practices? In most cases, you're spending to hit that checklist. Those are the three pillars that drove 100x growth from 3 billion to 300 billion. The amazing thing is all three are in play right now in the counter trafficking industry. The regulators are coming in hot from Uyghur Forced Labor Supply Chain Act held billions of dollars at the borders of the United States last year. The litigators are coming in hot we're closing on 200 court cases directly on counter trafficking, where businesses are being used by traffickers and not doing the things that they should to stop it. So this is mostly hospitality, finance, and transportation. So I think where the crime is happening, how the money is moving, and how the people are moving. But the litigators are coming in hot. We just shared an article on LinkedIn a few days ago where one of the major insurers was saying, this is the big thing that is coming for the insurance industry, which dovetails that the insurers are now ending up on the hook for it and cutting off their insured and saying, oh, we're not going to insure on this, which is the precursor to implementing industry standard best practices and beginning to insure it again. This is exactly what happened with cybersecurity. The same playbook is running. We're just at the very beginning of that. And we believe it's totally possible that we go on a 100x run from 500 million per year to 50 billion per year over a 20-year span. So absolutely a brilliant market to get into from an investing perspective, but also highly impactful. And there's three buckets that we invest in. We're going to dive into Safe Digital World here this morning, but there's a whole vertical around decimating the sex trafficking industry, which is really partnering with the businesses that are being used by criminals to implement this crime. Because what hospitality owner wants to be used by cartels? Absolutely not. But they need scalable solutions to solve that. And then on a labor trafficking global front, there's just a wave of regulation coming globally that is forcing companies to look at this, and accountability coming to companies who have global supply chains, and billions are flowing into this right now to solve this problem. But we're actually going to focus on what we're doing in the Safe Digital World for Children. The Freedom Fund 1 seeded the counter trafficking industry, and Freedom Fund 2 is growing it. So we have some momentum. We're 20-something investments into this fight, and many of them are in the Safe Digital World space. And I love, as an overarching vision for where this is going, before I go into specific stories, that Richard Percy, who leads the company I'm about to share with you, shared the vision that we would look back on 2025 and the way that we hand unprotected cell phones, unprotected internet to children, and in the same way that we currently look back on driving without seatbelts, that we absolutely are working through a progression where by design is absolutely coming, because parents are not satisfied with the lack of safety on the internet. When you have Sam Altman coming out and saying OpenAI is going to include erotica, you know that the internet is not currently safe, but parents are not happy with it. That is literally the counter to that, a software as a service solution that brings safety by design for children, for all the child brands that are implementing AI, is one of the things that we're looking at right now for investment in Fund 2. But from Fund 1 and in Fund 2 as well, HarmBlock is a great example of how we build a safe digital world for children. HarmBlock is an artificial intelligence that is embedded at the device level. So why at the device level? Because there's been, like, you're probably familiar with Covenant Eyes or different apps that kind of what they're really doing is getting a list of IP addresses or websites that have harmful content and blocking those. When you move to device level, something really interesting happens when you go device level, because you're able to actually look at everything that screen sees in a completely unavoidable way for the child, including the actual camera on the device, which is key if you want to stop something called sextortion. If you're not familiar with sextortion, there are many, especially it's often like 15, 16-year-old kids that have never, that don't know how dangerous this is, that are being wooed into sending explicit images of themselves, often by a criminal out of some far-fetched part of the globe, even though they were posing as a beautiful girl down the street. Once they get the explicit image, immediately it flips. Hey, send me $500 or I'm going to share this with your family. Send me $1,000. I share it with your friends, and often suicide follows, or just all kinds of carnage. If you want to stop that, you need to have a safety by design cell phone. This is already protecting 50,000 people, 50,000 families globally. Just launched a global partnership with Nokia and their parent company HMD and Vodafone in the UK, and is just growing very rapidly. We're very excited about HarmBlock's potential to be able to protect children at an incredible scale. And what they're doing is really protecting from a threat of image-based abuse, if that makes sense. Whether that's sending images of themselves or images coming in either via their scroll or otherwise. There's a number of tools that it takes. You need a tool belt to protect a child online, and HarmBlock today is the image-based protection, which complements beautifully the text-based protection that GameSafe is providing. GameSafe is an artificial intelligence that is taking screenshots every couple seconds on behalf of children, looking at the text-based threat. And they have a whole threat model to be able to detect when a predator or even bullying or suicide-related ideation is happening on the screen of that device, so that a parent can get a notification: hey, your child on Roblox is being pursued by a predator. Here's a screenshot of what's happening on your child's device as they're playing, and here's some non-threatening ways that can actually build a relationship with your child rather than breaking relationship with your child. And they're beautifully complementary and are actually under contract to join and become one company, because you can imagine that having both image-based protection and threat-based and text-based protection are a beautiful complement to one another. Another example is Techless is a company that that's also complementary, but it's going after something maybe even a little bit deeper of what is actually a healthy interaction with technology. Because one level is to protect children from threats, both from predators and from images of not being truly exploited. The next level up is actually to break the addiction to doom scrolling itself. Wisephone is part of a documentary that's being worked on right now called Doom Scrolling. And it's just absolutely breathtaking how much of the free time of Gen Alpha today is being used on devices. And they go through all these interviews in the trailer for what is being built in this documentary. But one of the things they talk about is that today many lunchrooms in school are quiet. And that was one of the things just like hit me so hard. Like, I cannot imagine a lunchroom from public school that I went to being quiet. It was absolute chaos. Like, the question was whether people were throwing chairs at each other, or is that like, are people going to fight was the issue of the day. Today, you will sometimes have truly quiet lunchrooms because so many kids are doom scrolling on their phones. But there is a wave of parent-teacher associations and schools looking to implement technology rules and regulations around how our how our phones going to be used in our schools. And their entire schools implementing the Techless solution because it's actually a healthy way to interact with technology. Technology is not bad. We've got to make it serve us and not become addicted to it. And Wisephone has been an incredibly successful investment from some of our earlier funds where it was kind of very baby company up to 5 million in revenue. These are companies that are actually making beautiful traction, multiplying our investment and bringing just absolutely at the forefront of the fight to build a safe digital world. And they're actually banding together into this brand new created child safe tech alliance. This is actually a draft that I'm showing you for a group that is about to go public. So please don't take screenshots of this and text your friends about it. But I want you to know what's coming, and it's a good illustration of VIP is the main leader of our Clapham Accelerator that gathers about 150 leaders in technology around counter trafficking twice per year. And it's broken up into 12 theories of change. One of those is building a safe digital world for kids, where both our portfolio company and then many of the adjacent technologies that are working on, there's a whole emerging industry of building safe technology for children. And they actually, the last time that we gathered 5 weeks ago, decided to actually form an alliance that can lobby and really push for safety by design and building the safe digital world for children. You can imagine there's a ton of synergies when all of these companies that are really building for the same reason, and to some degree they are competitors because they in some cases are building things that might be competing with one another, but they were all founded for the same reason, measuring their impact KPIs in ultimately the same ways: children having healthy and safe interactions online. And there's a whole slew of additional companies coming. So people often ask when they're investing, are they going to get kind of a rerun of, or kind of adding to earlier portfolio companies, or will they get new portfolio companies? And the answer is about half and half. Like we've already added to SafetyNet, which was in Fund 1, in Fund 2, but we also have several companies that we just agreed on a term sheet that we're about to send on a company that we're very excited about their ability to bring safety in the Roblox world of the predators on the gaming platforms. They have a really compelling solution to partner with game designers. There's a whole industry. There's about 3 billion players that are playing on games. There's an entire industry of indie game designers that they might be small in the world of gaming, but they have 10, 20, 50 million users that come to their games, and they actually want to build a safe experience. And so this company is actually bringing chat features and safety by design for all these indie game designers that can build a community and solve that problem on the Roblox platform. And there's very real economic value on the line. You might have seen mid-August that the Attorney General of Mississippi came out against Roblox and said, hey, you're falling down on the job at protecting children on the Roblox platform. Roblox lost $12 billion of market cap on that day. There is incredible value on the line whether companies that serve children are willing to protect them. And we believe it is a compelling advantage to bring safety by design to the digital world and to be backing the brands that are kind of riding this wave and pioneering this wave to create the internet that we hope for our kids, if that makes sense. I love our friends at Faith Driven Investor. They always talk about this idea that that your every investment has an impact. What's yours going to be? And I also like the idea of really envisioning the world that we hope for and investing towards it, if that makes sense. And it's nowhere more obvious than this, where we say, well, I can envision an internet that is actually safe for kids, and we get a chance to very, very directly invest in that. It really does matter how much capital comes in, if that makes sense, because we're in a fight against OpenAI. There's an active fight, and new capital coming in literally will go to the company that's creating the safe Roblox experience for children, to these companies that are the core of the Child Safe Tech Alliance. And it matters whether we send them $250,000 or $500,000. It matters whether we send them $500,000 or $2 million. It absolutely affects the fight. And we're actually starting to, because we're always getting a pool of companies ready for the next capital that's coming in. Like my term sheet for that child safety in the Roblox world has a caveat. It says, hey, the capital's not there yet. That makes sense. We raise about $1 million to $2 million a month. And so you have a great probability that if we agree to lead your round, that the capital will come. But we just try to give them complete transparency of what is there and what is not, because we're not a coffer where capital sits stagnant, if that makes sense. We're always getting ready with the deal of where your capital can go. And it really matters what capital comes in at any given time, which is a really fun way, but it drives IRRs high because we get capital to work very quickly, but it also requires us to walk in vulnerability with our entrepreneurs, which is good. It's good to because it forces us to stay humble. And so we're really excited about the ways that we've gotten to watch performance work over the last 8 years between Eagle Venture 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then now being on the second vintage of Eagle Freedom Fund. Eagle Freedom Fund 1 is up, I think, 14% in the first 6 months. So we're ahead of our target. Our target to investors, we had to come back and kind of apologize to our Freedom 1 investors because we had opened with a target rate of return of 10% per year. And our goal in doing that, because everything we'd ever put out at Eagle had a target of 20% rate of return. And we came out with 10 because we wanted people to clearly understand we're building Eagle Freedom Fund for because we want to win this fight, not primarily to go make money. But then we realizing that we were going to make way more than 10%. So we came back and kind of said, hey, we're going to change the target rate of return, partially because we want to articulate accurately, we think we're going to hit 20, but also to help people understand that there is not tension. People often ask the question, like, what about the tension between profit and impact? Like, you're really going after a huge mandate here, if that makes sense, around building a safe digital world. What about that tension? And what we try to help people understand is that when you build a portfolio, because this portfolio will be about 25, 30 companies, about a third of it will be in this Child Safe Tech Alliance. If you build a portfolio of companies like SafeToNet, where each customer that comes in is protecting another child, it's, well, and you say, well, what about the tension between profit and impact? You have to kind of scratch your head and go, well, I want more kids protected. So that means more revenue and more profit. You can't divorce your profit and your impact from one another when you have direct impact companies, when the thing that they were created to do and the thing that they sell, every unit produces more impact, then you actually eliminate the tension between profit and impact. And that's part of why we upgraded the target rate of return to 20%, because we realized we're playing in a market growing 44%. Why not target half of that to be able to, as our target rate of return? But also, we want people to wrestle with this idea that there are good and holy and beautiful risks to take, and we're all in a journey of becoming whole as investors, of creating portfolios that truly express our values. And when I talk about my family is like 90% invested in Eagles funds, and why my wife loves it so much is because it is a better expression of who she is and her values than anything else that we know to invest in. And there's a becoming whole that we're all going through. There's a becoming whole for the child that is experiencing a phone that doesn't exploit them. There's a becoming whole for the entrepreneur and the ways that we try to serve those entrepreneurs. There's a becoming whole for investors. We had one of our investors is a 70-year-old woman that had stopped working, and she invested in our fund and one other really high impact fund. She went back to work, and she told her advisor it was because if God wasn't done with her capital, he probably wasn't done with her either. There's a kind of a becoming whole that's happening that would ideally happen at every level. And we're on our own becoming whole journey at Eagle as well, of trying to bring like nothing missing, nothing broken at every level of the ways that we experience it. But that's my wife's reason for why she invests in Eagles funds. But we are having an absolute blast, and we have a team that we're proud of and excited to have. Tim Tebow on the team, Lyle Minton from Keel Point brought an institutional flavor to the investment committee. They've really partnered with us on carrying these Freedom Fund vintages at the Keel Point team to the institutional level, and would love to invite you all to be part of building a safe digital world for kids. We'll open up questions and can stay on as long as you all want. One way to just kind of dig deeper into the stories is the podcast that VIP hosts. Do you want to tell everybody about that, VIP?
Yes. We about 3 or 4 months ago, we started interviewing the portfolio company founders to give them a chance to share their stories. And so, we're used to talking about them, but we wanted investors and entrepreneurs and people connected to the Eagle Venture Fund family to hear the stories direct from the entrepreneurs themselves. So there's more than 30 podcasts that have been recorded already. And they can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and this link to YouTube as well. So check it out sometime soon.
It's been really helpful because it's hard when in these conversations to really give you all windows into meeting these amazing men and women that are in the middle of the fight. It's just a really fun way to kind of dig deeper and go like, who are these people that are inside this portfolio? Whether you're already invested or considering, we love sharing their stories. Do any questions come up? I just hit a ton of topics from AI to safety by design to portfolio construction. Any of those things bring up questions that y'all would like to ask?
Sure, I would have so many if I was able to catch the whole thing, but really appreciate you guys doing this. This is just the bit that I caught. Looks awesome, and I'm going to go dig in some more after this. Is there any way we can get a call recording of this sent so I can see what it is?
We'll send it to everybody, right, Pip? Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Matthew.
Is there any other general information we could provide to you as well as the recording? Are you looking for more in-depth insights, market analysis, anything we could provide?
I mean, yeah, I would love to see anything you got. I've talked to Vip a little bit outside of this, and so I'm just kind of scoping you guys out and seeing what you're doing. So, yeah, much appreciated.
You might appreciate, I just got a text from one of our entrepreneurs. They have 50 rescues pending, but on top of that, they're showing 2 different operations with 26 females rescued, 5 minors, 18 second operation, 18 female victims rescued, 4 more minors. That is the latest from another portfolio company. They're actually classified, so I'm not going to say their name, but our entrepreneurs are in the fight right in the middle of this. That's coming out of the Philippines where they're working. So, well, thanks so much for joining us here. We'll stay on for a couple of minutes, but thanks so much for joining us and taking time to learn about what is happening in Eagle Freedom Fund 2 and considering partnering with us.
In the material that you guys are sending over,